Pleased to welcome two gentlemen who have well over 10,000 runs in Test cricket and after whom this incredible trophy is named. Mr. Gavaskar, Mr. Border, and I understand Mr. Gavaskar has landed in Australia a while ago, completed his quarantine. Mr. Border, does he get a dinner invitation to your house? And how soon is that going to happen?
Yeah, well, I mean, we have the test match in Brisbane, but it's the fourth test. So I'm expecting Australia to be up, 3-0 by then. So he mightn't want to come out to the Border residents, but open invitation to the little master because we've had a great friendship over a lot of years, stretching back to my first trip to India back in 1979. But I do reckon I played against Sunny before that, playing for New South Wales when India were in Australia during World Series cricket. Would that be right, Sunny? And you would have played New South Wales in one of those, practice matches before. And I remember playing against India and being totally in awe of Gavaskar and Beatty and Chandrasekhar. I think those legendary spinners were still playing at that stage. So it was a great thing for a young man to experience that.
Sunny,
well, I seriously, I don't think you got too many runs in that game, so that's why I don't remember you from that game. But you gave us plenty. Hang on a minute, you gave us plenty, of course, to remember you after that. But that particular game,
you started it. Remember.
Well, no, I'm just telling you because, and the other thing could be that I probably wasn't playing in that game. So if you weren't playing in the game, you didn't always come to the ground. As you know, I mean, you were given a break. So, you didn't actually come to the ground if you were not playing. So that could be it.
R&R. Yep.
Fair enough. Well, he mentioned Brisbane, Sunny Bhai. Your debut 100 against Australia came at the age of 28, 1977, 113 in Brisbane. Give us your recollections of that landmark innings and that game.
Well, you see, we didn't play Australia for a long time, either at home or in Australia. I made my debut in 1971, and then for 7 years, I did play against the Australians, but for the World 11. But for 7 years, we didn't play the Australians. And so when we went to Australia in 77, 78, there was, of course, at that particular time, was the first year of World Series cricket. So Australia, you could say, were probably their major players were taken away. Jeff Thompson was the one player who was still around. And as far as the Indian team was concerned, he was the only one we were worried about, because, we had to face Jeff Thompson. The others, if they were not there, that was fine. And yes, so getting to that 100 was a good feeling. There was Alan Hurst who was pretty quick as well. He played a few test matches for Australia, and we almost won the game. But that was what India was doing in those days. That we were coming so close, but we didn't have maybe the belief to deliver the knockout punch. I think we lost by 14 or 16 runs, if I recall that game. We were chasing, I think, 300 odd or something, and we almost got it over there.
Great memories. Let's go to a 24-year-old AB in Chennai, then known as Madras, not even Chennai. Your first 100 against India, 162. You want to share some memories, and does the name Dilip Doshi ring a bell?
Yes. Well, I suppose that was an eye-opener for all of us young Australians to travel to India. We hadn't been to India, as Sunny said. We hadn't played a lot of cricket against each other for the preceding 10 or 15 years, and then of course India in Australia a couple of years before my first tour, which was 79. So an eye-opener, different cultures. So it was very, very different for us as young players to cope with the different conditions. But we had an absolute ball. And you think back to those days, we played 6 test matches, no one-day cricket. So it was a long tour. I think we were away about 13 weeks. So I recall the first game being in Chennai, Madras at the time. Very, very hot, humid. But we played on like it was an absolute belter of a track, very flat, batsman-friendly surface. And then as tended to happen in India at that stage, sort of the wickets would wear down and be more difficult as you went into day 4 and 5. But certainly we won the toss batting first. It was a seriously good track. No spin, no swing. In fact, I think I got dropped early on. Is that right, Sonny? Who was the guy, a really good fieldsman actually, but dropped me early on off Capel, round the corner.
First ball, Yajavendra Singh, who actually had, Yajavendra Singh. I think he had a record for a long time. He probably does, of holding the most catches in a Test match. That is 7.
Yeah.
I think he shared it with Greg Chappell. And then maybe Ajinkya Rahane a couple of years ago maybe broke it when he took 8 catches in the game. But and Yajavendra Singh was a brilliant fielder. He dropped you first ball.
Dropped it, and then of course I made 162, and then I got run out in the most bizarre fashion. I think it was Graham Yallop whacked one back down the wicket at Dilip Doshi, and it wasn't a great fielder, even off his own bowling, not fantastic, but it ricocheted from his hands, and I'd sort of slipped a little bit in backing up, and of course couldn't get back before the ball ricocheted onto the stump. So I was eyeing a big score that day, but wasn't to be. But that was my, first foray into playing cricket in India, and I thought, oh, how good's this? It's a bit hot, but the wickets, if they stay like this, that'll suit my game down pat. But of course, when you start batting, it's one thing to bat on day 1, a lot more difficult batting on day 5, so, as I soon found out.
Yeah, and Dilip Doshi was 6 for 103 in that particular one. Sunny Bhai, you featured in that mammoth home series win against Australia in 1979. I mean, victories in Calcutta and then Bombay, now Mumbai. Lots of people say that side was the foundation for our World Cup win in 1983, even though that was one-day cricket and this is Test cricket. Your memories of that 1979 series?
Well, it was a tough series. We had just come in from England, and I think within a week or 10 days we were playing the Australians. So we'd been on the road for quite a while. In fact, we'd been on the road since Pakistan in September 1978. Then we came back and we played against 6 Test matches against the West Indies, and then within I think 2 weeks after the West Indies tour of India finished, we went to England for a 4 Test series, again, almost a 3.5-month tour, and we came back from there. So we were all in pretty much, good nick, if you could say that. We were all in good nick, and we were all gelling together at that time because, when you play together for such a long time, then you start to gel together. And when the Australia series started, Kapil Dev had completed 1 year as an international cricketer. He made his debut a year earlier, October 1978 against Pakistan. And, in that 1 year, he had learned so much that he was the one who was making the difference. I mean, Dilip Doshi bowled superbly throughout that series. Shivlal Yadav bowled well, but it was Kapil with both bat and ball who was changing the course of the game. So getting crucial wickets at the top and then again in the middle. So that's what I remember. So I think we won a Test match in Kanpur as well. Was it Kolkata and Mumbai, or was it Kanpur as well? I think
Calcutta was an interesting finish from memory. Yashpal Sharma was whacking them all over. You were chasing a bit of a score, and all of a sudden the game came to life on the last day. But I don't think you actually end up winning. But yeah, certainly won two of those Test matches. I think the big thing for us, Sonny, was the change in the guard between, Bishan Bedi, Chandrasekhar, Prasanna, all were out of the side. I think it was only Venkat survived.
Correct.
And yes, you changed the spinners totally. So Dilip Doshi came in, Shivlal, and I think Venkat played the first Test.
Venkat played the first few, I think.
And you had a real quick leg spinner who played maybe 1 or 2 games.
Narasimha Rao.
Yeah, whatever happened to him? Yeah,
Bobji, he moved to Ireland.
To Ireland,
and he moved to Ireland. He played a bit for Ireland as well. He was a pretty good cricketer. He was more a batsman who could bowl a few of these, quick. You're right, absolutely. Anil Kumble type of, leg spin, pretty fastest spin. Yeah. So he moved to Ireland. Yeah.
Mr. Border, your own test match victories against India, ones you featured in. I mean, I remember the 91-92 series, McDermott and Boone doing so well. And then there was that victory in the Sydney Test earlier, 1981. A test victory against India in which you featured in that's really, really dear to you. What would that be?
Well, I mean, I'm talking about test victories. The one thing that stands in my mind, we talk about this rivalry over so many years, was of course, the Tide Test match. I mean, that's the game that sort of really got everyone talking about, a rivalry and what special cricket these nations produce. We've got different cultures, so we have different ways of going about our cricket out in the middle and different things. But gee, to play in that Tide Test match, that was quite incredible to have that sort of tight game, so many runs scored. I mean, I think back, we made 574 for, I think, 7 declared. And really, we were the team that should have lost, on the last afternoon. I mean, it's quite extraordinary that so many runs can be scored, but you can still, conjure up a game that goes right to the wire and a perfect tie, a dismissal with only one ball left. Quite incredible. So that is one of those special moments for me. Test match victories. We had a lot of success against India in Australia. In those days, our pitches a lot more pace and bounce than we've seen in recent times. India always had strong spin, but until Kapil Dev came along, the faster side of fast bowling side of the equation was probably the area that let you down as far as that strike power, firepower that we had in abundance. On our own pitches. So that's probably, it was always one of those advantages, wasn't it? The home team had the advantage. When we went to India, we struggled with the ball turning against spin. India, conversely, tended to struggle. Although Sunny he quite enjoyed batting in Australia. There was one, what was the series where he made 300s? 300s and 3 ducks, I think it was.
1977, which actually is a nice segue to the next question, because post that debut 100, Sunny Bhai, there were 2 other 100s in the 77 series, 2 in the 1979 series here in India. Then, of course, that 166 not out in Adelaide in 1985, 103, if I'm not mistaken, at the Wankhede in 86, and then that 172 at the SCG. So let's keep the debut aside. Any other big 100 that really comes back, which you made in very telling circumstances amongst all those other 100s?
I think maybe that 166 not out at Adelaide comes to mind, because I retired at the end of the second day's play. Australia had declared having scored another 550 odd runs, and so we went into bat. I think towards maybe an hour and a half before the end of the day's play, or maybe an hour. And Srikanth and I opened the batting, and Srikanth got some runs, and then I got hit on my forearm by a McDermott bouncer, and so that despite the fact that I had an arm protector, overnight it had become the bruising had because it had swollen up, so I couldn't resume my batting the next day. So then going into bat, I think after the 3rd or the 4th wicket fell, to be able to bat on and get some runs, that certainly was very satisfying.
Mr. Border, your own team, I mean, 91, 92, McDermott, Boone, some really great performances in there. So victories that you featured in against India, what would be notable?
Yeah, look, we were talking about the victories. I mean, we had a lot of success in matches in Australia, 0 success in matches in India. So, it was all balanced, wasn't it? It was always a real test to see if you could win away from home, which in my time, I never achieved. I think the only games I won in the subcontinent were in Sri Lanka, and that was when they were sort of very much the minnows. So you could sort of bash them up a bit, but India and Pakistan in their backyard, very, very hard to beat. But we had some success in our own country. So, yeah, memorable victories. Look, they're all pretty good. I mean, there was no. I don't think there was any. Just trying to think of any particular standout one. I mean, for Sunny, I mean, the big one would have been that MCG game where they were just gone for all money. We were going to win the game. Even Sunny tried to finish the game early, by walking off, staging a protest. He blames
that's because
me.
you guys. That's because you gave me a send-off.
Hey, I did not give you a send-off.
Not you.
That was Lily. That was Lily, wasn't it?
Well, actually, when you have a look at the video, I keep saying to the people, look, it's a misconception that it was the decision. It's actually, when you look at the video, I've gone past Chetan Chauhan when I've been given this send-off, and not in the most diplomatic language. That's when I've actually turned back. That's when I've turned back.
But you know what they say, Sunny Bhai. Saurav Ganguly taking off his t-shirt in the balcony at Lord's, and Sunny Gavaskar walking off with Chetan Chauhan. These are two embarrassing moments that both Saurav and you will have to confront all your lives. So I think it's wonderful to see you do it with a smile on your face now.
Well, years gone by. You can laugh about it now, can't you?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, I'm going to come now to the current series. This is a big one, the Border Gavaskar series this year. Sunny Bhai, we have a wicketkeeper debate going on before the first test. Rishabh Pant or Riddhiman Saha. Who would be your choice going into Adelaide, considering we've just come off the back of the second warm-up game?
It's going to be a tough one for the tour selection committee because Rishabh played in all the 4 test matches 2 years ago, and he also got 100. And he seemed to have got under the skin of some of the Australian players with his chirping behind the stumps. So I guess the team will probably look to have him. And then, of course, when you've just come off 100 in a few days earlier, he would be the choice, I think, of the management. When you're playing on pitches where the wicketkeeper has to stand up to the stumps, where the ball turns around a little bit, that's when you tend to take your best wicketkeeper, and in which case, Riddhiman Saha would be the obvious choice. But here, because India will be having, pacers, and, you can stand behind, you get that little more time to, go for the catch, or, you get that much more time behind the stumps, about 15 yards behind the stumps. My feeling is that they'll go for that. Also because at the top of the order, India is a little bit shaky. They don't know who they're going to go with. Mayank Agarwal is, of course, a certainty. Who are they going to open with? Are they going to open with Shubman Gill? Are they going to open with Prithvi Shaw? So with that uncertainty at the top, they'd like to, I think, strengthen their batting. And so Rishabh Pant will play. But I only hope he plays I'm hoping he plays at 6. Because then that will allow you to pick 5 bowlers to try and get 20 Australian wickets.
Makes sense.
I've been in Sydney the last couple of days watching your boys run around against Australia. Gee, I was impressed with Gill. I really think he's got something about him, his technique. I know he's only young, so he can play a few rash shots here and there, but gee, he looks a seriously good player, this kid. He would be my pick out of the guys I saw. I know you guys have got big raps on Shaw, but he seems to me that he plays a shot of ball, Sonny. Against a new ball, it looks good on flat tracks, but in Australia, you've got to be a little bit more watchful about your shot selection, and he just seems a bit loose outside the off stump for me. But if I'm an Indian selector, I'm looking very close at young Gill.
Yeah, and Sunny Bhai, actually, let me butt in here, because once Virat returns, I mean, who are you going to look to fill in the gap in the Indian batting? Because looks like Rohit Sharma is only going to be ready for the 3rd test. So in the 2nd test, the Boxing Day test at the MCG, what would be your middle order combination? I mean, given what Mr. Border just said about Shubman.
Well, I think what will probably happen is that Ajinkya Rahane will move up from 5 to 4, and Hanuma Vihari will bat at 5. I don't know, with Hanuma Vihari also getting 100 in that game, Hanuma Vihari might be playing at number 6 in the 1st test. Though I would like India to go with 5 batsmen and one Rishabh Pant at 6, and then 5 bowlers. But again, I think I would have gone with 5. I would have done with that combination if Jadeja had been fit for the first test as well, because then he also gives the batting a little more depth. Ashwin and Jadeja at 7, 8 gives the batting that much more depth. If then you can play a wicketkeeper at 6. But without Jadeja being fit, I think they'll go in with 6 batsmen. So Hanuma Vihari at batting at 6 for the first will move up to 5. And then they might look at bringing in KL Rahul for the Melbourne game. This is what I think. Though he didn't play in both the 3-day warm-up games, my feeling is that they'll go for him.
Mr. Border, Australia have an opening conundrum. Warner's injured. Pukovsky's got himself concussed again. Who would you go with as Australia's opening pair in that Adelaide pink ball test? I mean, Marcus Harris has gotten a call-up, so your choice would be?
Yeah, look, it's the million-dollar question for the Australian selectors, isn't it? Because they would have had certain combinations in mind 3 weeks ago, and that would have been Burns and Warner. Now, all of a sudden, Joey Burns just cannot get a run, and he just looks as though he's just a lost soul at the crease at the moment. So it's almost impossible that the Australian selectors could pick him, even though he is the incumbent opener, played in Australia's last test match. I just can't see how they can play him. Warner's injured, of course, so therefore those two out of contention. What I would be doing, what I'm seeing, Marcus Harris would get one of the spots, and the other spot I would be talking to Matthew Wade, who currently bats 5-6 for the Australian team, but has opened in the short form of the game. He's a bit of real fighting sort of a character. Bit of get up and go about him. If you asked him, I'd say he'd not so much jump at the chance to open the batting, but he would do the job for you, and then that allows you to play that Cameron Green, who I think he's our future. He's one of those future young players that will play a lot of cricket for Australia. I reckon the future's now. So I was talking about that a few weeks ago. I think Pukovsky. I mean, I don't know what Sonny thinks, but have you ever known anyone to make 4 big double hundreds in his first 20 games? I mean, this kid, we don't know what we've got here, but unfortunately he's got these problems with getting hit on the helmet and being concussed, and he's got this predisposition. And of course, when he bats now, he's just going to get short pitch delivery after short pitch delivery. And so what we do with him, I don't know. I mean, we've got to come up with some sort of better helmet. Sonny, I just don't know what to do about these helmets. Everyone gets hit now. You've got to get assessed, and the assessment always seems to be concussed. I can't ever remember. I got hit a few times. I don't know about you, Sonny. But that
no helmet, only skull cap. Only skull cap.
Yeah. But
I got hit on the coconut once.
I can never remember being concussed.
Okay, just a big heads up to all our friends from the media and everybody who's on this session. The first test of the Border Gavaskar Trophy, India takes on Australia. The pink ball test in Adelaide. It's December 17th, 8:30 a.m. onwards. Live and exclusive on Sony 6, where you'll get the English, Tamil, Telugu feed, Sony 10.1 English and Sony 10.3 Hindi, also streaming live on Sony Live. So download the app now. Now, I want to move away from games that the two of you played and just come into generic Border Gavaskar Trophy memories. I mean, there's been some stellar ones as far as Australia is concerned. Nathan Lyons 8 for 50 in Bangalore, Mr. Border, in 2017. Some other recent memories. Michael Clark and his 329 not out. If you remember 2011-12, the Aussies whitewashing India for love that particular year. So Border Gavaskar Trophy memories from the Australia side, Mr. Border.
Great memories, and the rivalry just gets stronger and stronger, doesn't it? Because the cricketing teams just have this incredible sort of way of producing, fantastic games of cricket. The rivalry is alive and ready to go again next week. But going back in time. Look, I was fortunate enough to be a selector on tour when Australia finally had their breakthrough series win. I think Adam Gilchrist was the actual captain at the time, but I think Ricky Ponting was the Australian captain. He missed the last test match of that series. But, the final frontier for Australian teams was India. And and we just couldn't beat you guys in your own backyard. But so that breakthrough victory as a series win was special. But I also remember, the reverse happening when under Stephen Waugh, where they'd won about, 14 or 15 test matches in a row. And of course, VVS Laxman had his say in proceedings and made this incredible double hundred. I mean, quite incredible stuff. So few and far successes for Australia in the subcontinent. And I sort of harp on that because, just the way it's been. And it's only was it last time you guys were in Australia that you had that breakthrough series win. So the rivalry's been going, gangbusters with great games of cricket, but neither side could beat each other in their own backyard. It was a very frustrating sort of time. Well, I know for us, I don't know whether you guys had the same sort of feeling about that, that, eventually you're going to get this group of guys together that can win away from home, and you look like you've got it.
Yeah, Sunny Bhai, Border Gavaskar Trophy memories. I mean, would it be like you said, after 70 years winning in 2018-19, there have been other stuff. I mean, there's been the Vaughan and Sachin rivalry of 98, Dravid and Lakshman in Calcutta 2001, Dravid Lakshman Agarkar, Adelaide in 2003, Dhoni's team beating Australia 2013 4-0, if you remember that. So your favorite Border Gavaskar Trophy memory, please.
Well, I think, yes, Sachin Tendulkar and Shane Warne clashed in the 1998. And how Sachin Tendulkar prepared for it by having Lakshman Sivaramkrishnan before the Chennai test, which was the first test of that series, asking him to go and bowl round the stumps because he anticipated that Shane Warne would do that, try and bowl in the rough created by the fast bowlers, try and land the ball over there. And how he countered that, how the way he batted. So that is something that stands out. Then you're right. I think the recovery, the Lakshman and Dravid partnership, where they batted a whole day, and not to forget Harbhajan Singh's bowling. He took 32 wickets in that series, 32 wickets, including a hat trick. So that was outstanding because he really came of age. He was hardly 20 something, Harbhajan at that stage, but the way he was getting the ball to loop and turn was reminiscent of the spin quartet of the 1970s. The way he was teasing the batsman, that was a delight to watch. And then of course the win in Adelaide when Dravid got a double hundred, and then he got another 70 odd not out in the second innings to take India home. Agarkar taking 6 wickets. And that's another test match which stands out because Australia scored 550 in their first innings and yet lost the match. So that doesn't happen too often, that where a team scores 550 in the first innings and loses the match. So those are memories that stand out. Then Dhoni hitting a double hundred in 2013 when India beat Australia 4-0. But having said that, I think Steve Smith's century a couple of years back on an absolute turner at Pune, where the ball was turning square from the first ball. For him to get that 100, he made batting look so simple. That was a fabulous innings. And I think Steve O'Keefe took 7 in each innings, 7 wickets in each innings. So these are memories that stand out from the Border Gavaskar Trophy.
Remarkable. Okay, I'm going to give you a common question or situation, the two of you, and both of you have to answer. So this Border Gavaskar Trophy, India or Australia? Mr. Border, take your pick.
Australia, of course. We're in our backyard. We're going to make it very hard for you guys. But I am a bit worried about your team.
Mr. Gavaskar.
I think India will win. Australia will probably win the first one, but then India will recover and win the second, third, and fourth. And the fourth one will be washed out.
You're not beating us in my backyard, Brisbane. Come on.
Oh, definitely. We're not. It's going to get washed out.
Yeah, no. But finally, you guys have got some pace bowlers. They've got some get up and go. I mean, they're serious bowlers. Your guys, Shami and Bumrah. I think he's a ripper. I've got a lot of time for him. Just the way he plays his cricket, always got a smile on his face. But lethal when he gets when he gets his rhythm going. So your guys will worry our guys, but I just reckon our firepower will come through.
Mr. Gavaskar, one player to watch out for from India and one player to watch out for from Australia in the Border Gavaskar series?
For me, the player to watch out from India will be Mayank Agarwal, because he came to Australia for the last couple of test matches 2 years ago, and he actually showed the way, because till then India had not got any start. But he batted brilliantly. He actually showed how to tackle Nathan Lyon, because he was stepping down the pitch, lofting him straight. The freshness of youth, you could say, whatever. And since then, he's only become better. He's gone from strength to strength. Look at the season he had last year, where he scored a double hundred against South Africa. I think he got 2 back-to-back double hundreds, if I'm mistaken. If I'm not mistaken. So I mean, he's the guy I really am looking forward to in this series. And from Australia, I'm looking at this new kid on the block, Marnus Labuschagne, because when Sachin Tendulkar says that Labuschagne reminds him of him, man, that is an ominous sign for the bowlers of the world, not just India's bowlers, but bowlers of the world. So I'm looking forward to watching this new kid on the block.
That's a huge rap, isn't it? To have someone of that ilk give you that sort of rap. I mean, his head probably goes like this. You know, you have to get a bigger helmet.
Mr. Border, one player from India to watch out for, one player from Australia.
Well, to me, look, I'm a huge fan of Bumrah. I mean, if he keeps himself fit, we're talking a guy who can win games for you fellas. I worry about him because on our pitches, I think they'll offer a little bit of bounce and a little bit of sideways movement. Pink ball game, you know, it's the uncertainty of that, you know, how the ball behaves under the lights and when you bowl with a newer ball and all those sort of things come in. But over the 4 test series, if for India to win, Bumrah, I'm worried about him. If he fires up like he did last time, get important wickets, ruffle a few feathers with the ball, I reckon he could make a real difference. You always think that the batting lineups, your batting lineup will get enough runs. It's just whether you need the 20 wickets to win the test. And staying fit. He's the one who's going to be a key. So I worry about him. And well, the Australians, look, Cameron Green, he's a really good young cricketer. So he's someone to watch, definitely, because you haven't seen a lot of his bowling or batting probably because he's just fairly new to the systems, but his batting is very good. He's a big, tall lad, 6'6", gives the ball a good whack, and he's got a great technique, you know, a really, you know, quality technique that'll serve him well. But you throw into the equation, he bowls a really heavy ball. I'm talking about, he can get into the 140s, and from that height, you know, if he you know, is allowed to flourish. That's always a big question mark. You know, I get him a high horse. So I don't know about Sonny when I watch the modern game, and we've got protection, you know, by, you know, workload issues. You know, you're allowed to bowl so many overs, so many this and that. They don't let the kids just go out and play. But that's another matter. But watch out for Cameron Green. He's a good player.
My last question to the two of you legends is, how did you get each other out in your playing days? Mr. Gavaskar, what are the instructions passed on from the Indian think tank to the Indian bowlers, spinners, medium pacers, how to get AB out? What is the strategy?
Whatever strategy it was, it did work, because I think AB got thousands of runs against India. We used to think that when he swept the ball, sometimes he swept the ball a little uppishly towards square leg. So that was one area that we concentrated on, keeping our best fielders over there at square leg. It didn't always work because, you know, I mean, it's such a near the umpire, standing next to the umpire, square leg umpire. So the ball would go from here there. But it was tough to get him out because he had such a solid defense. He had a short back lift, which meant that, you know, if you have a high back lift, you can think in terms of, you know, looking to get the batsman out caught in the slips, because the high back lift guys tend to push at the ball. But AB didn't have that. AB had a short back lift, and then he, you know, he could play with both hands. So he could play the cut shot, he could with the top hand drive. So tough. You know, he was called in Marathi, he was called Ghaslet. which is the
What
term
close
of
swearing for this?
respect, absolute respect.
Oh, thank
It's
you.
a term of respect. Ghaslet in Marathi, translated into English, it means kerosene. Kerosene used to be such a rare commodity. It was something that every household wanted, and it was in short supply in the old days. And that's why if you had a ghaslet in your team, if you had a ghaslet, a kerosene, then you couldn't go wrong. So it was out of respect that the Marathi. It was the Mumbai cricket term. It's a Mumbai, not all India term. It's a Mumbai cricket term.
Yeah.
And that's the respect that we had for AB, because we knew that once he settled in, we were in for the long haul.
So, Mr. Ghastlet, sorry, Mr. Border,
Yeah.
how did you try and get Sunil Gavaskar out? Bouncers, sledging, combination of the two?
Oh, well, I mean, he copped a fair bit of verbal from the Aussie bowlers at times, but water off a duck's back. I don't think that worried him too much. And his record is incredible. I mean, so in other words, as an opening batsman, I don't care, who you are. It's the toughest gig, isn't it? Open the batting. So that's total respect, because you're out there against fresh bowling, new ball, and you're going to be vulnerable early on in your innings. So that's what we talked about. We've got to attack Sunil Gavaskar straight away and bowl good lines, good corridors straight away with that new ball, because if he gets through the new ball, look out, he bats long and big scores. But he's very vulnerable to left arm spinners that have got very low arms. And I got Mr. Gavaskar out one time and one time only. I won't tell you how many he scored. He was about 130 odd at the time, but it's 1-0, 1-0 to me.
Left arm spinner. It's
He didn't
incredible.
have a lot of trouble. The low arm. That was the answer.
It's incredible how much entertainment you've provided to us on the pitch during your playing days, you two legends, and thank you for all the entertainment you provide off the pitch. That's it for this fireside chat from me, Hrishi K. Please do watch the Border Gavaskar series starting Friday the 17th. It promises to be excitement of another level on the Sony Sports Network.